Hello there. Um, Glad to be here as always. And today I want to remind you that yes, you can actually say no. And we're going to be talking about agency and how important it is to feel free to say no sometimes. And I'll tell you the inspiration for that in just a second. But before we get too far along, reminder to hit the thumbs up and to hit subscribe so that you can help the algorithm along and share and push it out to other people who might want to be in on this conversation. So, I guess it's been a couple of weeks. It's been a couple of weeks ago. I was on one of my podcast days. So I try to make sure at least once a week I'm checking in with some of the podcasts that I enjoy or exploring new ones because I like learning new things and hearing new thoughts. And I had not actually listened. I think, well, let me take that back. I had listened to one or two of former First Lady Michelle Obama's podcasts with her brother, but only like in bits and pieces, right? And I hadn't listened to one fully. So this was one that I was listening to fully. And in this conversation, she shares about how she was needing to like find herself again once she left the White House because there, of course, clearly so much pressure as first lady being the spouse of the president of the United States and all the things that come with that. Like I can only imagine because I have enough of that in my own life. I can't imagine that like 100-fold. And she talked about, some confidence issues, some imposter issues, and all the things, which is seemingly crazy to me, right? But also, literally, like needing to find herself again and recognize she does have agency and she can make decisions that impact herself and that impact her solely in the way that she wants and needs for now that she's out of the White House. And she talked about how it had been some time, that this is still going on. Like this was not a one and done. And, because they've been out of the White House for what, I don't know, what is it, 10 years now? I can't remember, somewhere along those lines. So yeah, I was like, this is so powerful to think about and to recognize because we all can go through that, especially we as women. So, being the nerd that I am, I'm like, I need a definition because I know what I'm talking about, but it's some folks, it's like, okay, you're using these quote fancy words and context. So, I want to make sure we're all on the same page, that we have leveled the playing field when it comes to having this conversation. And so here we are. Go Google it. But the definition or the description that I discovered was that personal agency is the capacity to intentionally act and make choices that influence your own life and environment, moving from being a passive observer to an active participant, fostering a sense of control, competence, and self worth by setting goals and taking steps to achieve them. It's about believing your efforts to lead to meaningful change. Um, it's about believing your efforts lead to meaningful change, acting as the quote driver in your own life rather than just a passenger, and is a core concept in self efficacy and personal development. I feel like I can like just stop right there with that definition. It's one of the most thorough that I've seen or heard, and it's covers so much. There's so much in that, right? About intentionality, about having choices, making those choices, influencing your own life. moving from being passive to being active. Um, oh my gosh, so many things. And when you look at that in this context, can you imagine Michelle Obama talking about, I needed to regain some agency over my life? And I'm like, me too, me too. And seriously, though, I definitely had been experiencing this for myself with the various career shifts that I'd made, the various life shifts that had been going on personally, and really getting to a point where I didn't feel like I was in control of my own things. I mean, from the perspective of always feeling like I was always meeting other people's needs first, and then if there was something left over, meeting my own. That led to a lot of resentment. Still working on it, but and I'll talk a little bit more about shifting that. But I truly know that feeling because I was living it pretty recently, not, so far away that it's like, oh, well, I'm all over it now. No, this is a journey that I'm still experiencing because it's layers to it. And when I think about that, then that's how I know and can understand Michelle, and I'm nodding, Michelle Obama saying, I'm still working through this because there was years of this and in the public eye, right? And so there's so many things. First, so let's talk about the intentionality. Um, about having the capacity to act intentionally to make choices that influence your life, your environment. And intentionality is required. Like you have to think, I am going to do this thing. And what's implied there, but not necessarily stated, is the I'm going to do this thing for me, which means I am not going to do another thing for someone else. And so often we forget that. And then you get accused or guilted into doing something or shamed into doing something that you really don't feel like doing, don't want to do, or just flat out being called selfish. And here's the reality behind that: all of those things come externally to put upon us, and then we internalize it, right? But they come as a result of others not being able to respect your boundaries, and or if you've lacked putting some in place. I've had both experiences. And but if you do, when you do establish boundaries around, yeah, I only have the energy or capacity to do this and I'm going to go take care of me for a minute, then what's happening is you're disturbing some other people's world. And that's not a bad thing, but you have to be aware of it, that when you start intentionally centering what you want for your life, how you want to engage in your life more fully, and at a capacity that you can handle, there are going to be people who don't like it. It could be family. Family's going to be really aggravated by that. It could be family, close friends, colleagues at work. Because if they've been used to you telling them yes all the time, they're gonna be challenged to accept a no or a not now or a maybe, let me get back to you. You see how many other options there are? And that's not your problem. That's their problem to deal with. But we have to be prepared for that, right? We have to be prepared for that and what that looks like. Some people can get standoffish. Some people will be angry. Others may take it personally and be offended. But there's so many layers to it, and it doesn't mean that you should not continue along with intentional actions to grow who you are, in your own personal agency and the capacity you have to do some things. what was the other thing? Moving from being passive to active in your own life. Oh my God, with control and competence and self worth when you're taking those, man, that alone is worth it. To being because here's the thing, when you don't feel like you have agency, which means then you don't feel like you have control, then it does feel like you're watching things happen to you, right? And it's so easy to slip into that train of thought of, well, this is happening to me. They're making this happen to me, and not taking ownership over the fact that you do have the authority to take control, to take action, to be active, not let not to just let things happen, but to be active and make a decision and walk in it. The problem is sometimes we may have slipped into it, whether it was some situation, let's say in a nasty career transition that really shot, your self-worth and your thing, so that you're feeling like, oh, I have to do some of these things. And even when you no longer have to do certain things, you don't realize it. And so you're still acting that way as if, you're dependent on someone else to give direction to your life. Oh wow, right? How many of us are acting as if we have to depend on someone else to give direction for our own life? That's a powerful thought right there, because it's not true. That doesn't mean you don't have um, input from others, that there's not other, that there's not going to be times when others influence it, but you don't have to hand over the decision making. And unfortunately, that happens a lot, specifically to women, because of, training, societal things, conventional wisdom, all of that stuff, of all the shoulds. You should do this because, you should do that because, you should do this because your husband is this person. You should do that because your children are involved in these things. You should do this because you're the leader of this group. I learned over the years there's a lot of shoulds that are, they're they're poo poo and they're not real. They are falsities. They're these idealisms, unfortunately, sometimes, of what, under a perfect circumstance, perfection doesn't exist. I am recovering perfectionist, have been for some time, probably will be for my entire life, because there's nothing worse than slipping back into that. And I was like, oh, I really should go do. And I was like, but why? Sometimes you just have to ask questions, but why? Is it because someone asked us to, or because we're feeling obligated to? Totally different. Two totally different things. And when we continue to do so many things out of obligation and because we should do it, that resentment starts building a fire within. And that makes for a not so happy person. Speaking from experience, not happy at all. And so peeling back those layers for me over the years has looked like not continuing in work that all of my credentials say I should, regardless of the fact that some of the people and situations were literally physically making me ill. It looks like not continuing along in certain leadership roles, service roles, because I should, in order to make something else look good or to have this visibility in the community. I literally came to terms with some of this with like, but I've had a lot of leadership roles in my community. I've had all the titles. I don't really need or want that now. Like my life has shifted, my priorities have shifted. I still care very much about my community, but my giving back doesn't have to be require me spreading myself so thin that, how you, if you were making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and you spread that peanut butter on there too fast, um and too much, you're going to rip the bread. Well, yeah, that would be my life. about to rip about to rip things apart, trying to spread yourself too thin, too fast, too much. I know that was a crazy analogy, but hey, I'm a peanut butter girl, so it works. And the reality is, so much of it just becomes internalized. I know that as recently as within this past week, I've had a couple of things where, my instinct initially would be, oh, you should have gone to that event, or oh, you should be going with your husband to this thing. And I was like, I'm tired. I'm overcommitted with this particular organization as it is. I won't say overcommitted, but I'm managing my commitments with it. That would be overcommitting myself. And I said I wasn't going to do that. I showed up for this other event with my husband several times in recent weeks. And this other time, doing the early morning thing, which he knows I am not the early morning girl. That's not me, never has been. And so, guess what? I get to say no to this next thing and coming home and enjoy myself and getting the rest that I had to give up in order to take part in this activity. I get to say no. I've spent a lot of years saying yes. You've spent a lot of years saying yes. If you are just starting out in your career, you're saying yes a lot already right now. And I get it. I was there. I was that person. Go check out my LinkedIn. Go check out all of my career and my experiences, and read into it. There was a lot of yes being said. And I encourage folks to not wait for 10, 15, 20 years down to learn how to say no respectfully. I need you to start exercising that muscle of saying no now. I work on it with my daughter, who's starting out in her career, and helping her to know the balance, because it can very well end up with you 15 years down the road having said yes to everything and everybody but yourself. And that leads to resentment. And sometimes we do it to ourselves, right? That's not to say, oh, you're to blame, you should have done it. It's a balancing act, right? We have to learn to teach people how we want to be treated, or how we are living in this moment, so that they can respect that and move on. When I was doing my education policy, there was a colleague of mine that I had done some work for his organization at one point in time. We had worked on some initiatives and collaborations. And so we would check in once or twice a year, once we weren't working together like that. And I had been out on my own for a minute. Every once in a while, I'd get an offer or get something that somebody would send to me, say, "Hey, I think these folks are looking for this person. I think this sounds a lot like you." So we were catching up for coffee one day, and he started talking about an opportunity and just jumped straight in. Yeah, this is really great. I think it has your name written all over it, whatever. And by this time, he did not know, because we had not spoken, that I had made a decision actively that I was not looking for those types of gigs anymore. I actively decided I'm not doing that anymore. And so I had to tell him that. I'm like, yeah, so I don't it sounds fantastic, but I don't think that's the direction I'm headed in right now. And his response to me is something I that has stuck with me. I have used as starts to the year. I've used as reminders to people, which was he was like, "Wait, let me stop and let me you tell me what Patricia 2.0 is doing." I was like, "I love that." And I have used that for years. And I figure, I say I'm on my 4.0 version now. I might be getting close to a 5.0 version, I think, because we may shift and grow, or we're wanting to shift and grow, but because people are used to us being in a certain way, a certain mindset, doing certain things all the time, then they'll just keep pushing that towards you. And we have to be able to actively and intentionally say, that's not who I am. That's not where I'm headed. Here's 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, whatever version you are, and let people know that. Because if you don't let them know very clearly, then they'll just keep pushing stuff at you, and that resentment will continue to build up, right? And so it's a matter of us taking ownership of some of that junk that's been being tossed our way or that we've just internalized, and recognizing when we have to step back, like what is really going on here. Let me revisit this. Let me have another conversation with me, and then hit the reset button hard. Sometimes the reset button has to be hit hard. I think Michelle Obama hit the reset button hard, and it was hard for her because again she was is and is not was but is still this nationally international recognized person, public figure, who has been pulling back from some of the political or things that were aligned with politics, because she's like, I'm not in that position anymore. I didn't have the title. I love that. I didn't have the title of president. Yes, I was, the first lady, and there are duties and responsibilities came along with that. But I'm no longer the sitting president's first lady. And this is me now living the life that I want to live now in this time. And I love to see it. I love how she's carrying herself. There's just so many things. It's a whole other conversation, but it's so many things that show up, especially because she's a Black woman, where she's just carrying herself and walking in her truth in this whole other way that you just have to be able to recognize and know. I love every bit of it. All right. That last part about believing your efforts lead to meaningful change and acting as the driver in your own life. Oh, so powerful that you're not just a passenger. You have the keys to your life and you can go drive it. And not only can you can drive in such a powerful way that you can cause great things to happen. And somebody was like, well, I'm not, the former first lady. You don't have to be. Whatever it is in your own life right now today, like you can be that impactful, that meaningful to cause change in the life that you lead right now today. Gotta own it. Just gotta own it. It's okay Was it not just that it's okay, but yes, you can say no. We have to remember that we can say no. Sometimes we actually need to say no. And if it's sometimes it may not be a straight up no. Maybe it's a maybe you ease into it. Maybe it's a can I think about that? Not can I, but I need to think about that. Don't ask permission because that's where we get caught. So can I think about well, we really need you right now. No, let me think about that and I will get back to you. Or let me help you find someone else that can meet that can fill that need, right? Um, because one thing I'm always saying, everything that comes to us is not for us. And so some of that passing something to someone else or leading people to another thing is a part of being impactful and leading meaningful change. Maybe something that comes to you that you might otherwise say yes to that you don't really want to or need to is meant for someone else, and that is how you can be a conduit for uh, for change, for making an impact, for letting something come through you to someone else. We're going to talk about that on another day. So there we are. Yes, you can say no. Feel free to say no, to say not right now. Let me think about it. Let me direct you to someone else who can meet this need, engage in this project. If it's your family, it's like, hey, I will get to X after I go do Y for me. Because family's tricky. That's that one where we absolutely feel this sense of obligation, and some of that is truly letting go of doing things for others when they need to learn how to do it for themselves. Guilty of it. This mama has done it and got to a point of recognizing I'm really frustrated. It was like, yeah, but I have to own my piece, my part in creating this monster, so let's start undoing it. Yeah. Yeah. Lots of journaling for that. Get yourself a journal. I always say that. Get yourself a journal. So I hope that's been helpful for you. And if you don't know who I am, my name's Patricia, and I love helping women, particularly women professionals and entrepreneurs, to empower their growth so that they can pursue their lives um, uh, with authenticity, with clarity, and with purpose. That's truly what it is. And so, if you've made it to my little part of the world, this little part of the world, I hope it's because you realize you may need a little help. you because you've been feeling trapped by what's going on around you. You're feeling trapped by conventional wisdom and all those shouldas and wouldas, and realizing that all of that stuff you've been doing for other people, helping other people to succeed, that's not necessarily been to the benefit of helping your own self to succeed by meeting your own goals. This part of the world is for you. So I hope to talk to you again. We'll meet up again tomorrow. Don't forget to hit thumbs up, hit the subscribe, share this out, and I appreciate you joining with me today. And remember that celebrating yourself is absolutely a power move. So go do it. Take care. Talk soon.